Jiggy Jaguar radio program, coast to coast and border to border on TuneIn, iTunes, Radio Loyalty, Stitcher, Radio Zenu, 50-plus AM FM stations across the country and around the world, Red Nation Radio Today, KFRK in Denver, Colorado, and, of course, on iHeartRadio. Yes, Bob Pittman, the genius. Well, he is a genius because he put me on iHeartRadio. Thanks for tuning in to the big broadcast from the KJAG Radio Studios in Hutchinson, Kansas. We are live as live can get each and every Sunday. 2 Central, 3 Eastern, 12 Pacific, 1 p.m. Mountain Standard, and of course, 24/7 at JiggyJaguar.com on the free Android and iPhone app available at JiggyJaguar.us. Selected editions on iHeartRadio and AM/FM, 247.com. Our telephone number, 267-22-JIGGY. On-demand commercial-free podcasts are $5 a month at our website. It's red link on the homepage at JiggyJaguar.com. And, of course, Jay Marie is in the co-host situation today. Yes. Israel apparently, well, we're not real sure what happened to Israel. He's been wanting to book guests. He's been wanting to have this big conversation about race and guns. So I booked some guests, and you're sitting in his spot. So I don't know where he is. We're supposed to be joined today by ICT Boy. Is that who he is?
That's who.
What is his deal?
ICT Boy.
ICT Boy.
Yeah.
And then I was going to try to have Key Boy show up so we could have a meeting of the boys, Key Boy and ICT Boy. I don't know, that just makes me chuckle. I'm simple. And, but we have 2 great guests in studio today. Alan Law Police is with us from the 1st District, the fighting 1st District. Is that?
Indeed it is.
Indeed it is. And J.B. Wells, or J number 2, if you want to call her that. And by the way, if you guys don't want to use the mic stands and you want to hold the mics like rappers, you can take them off the microphone.
Be cool like rappers.
Deals if you want to do that. If not, you can keep them on the sticks. But first of all, I want to go to Alan. We were kind of discussing before we got on the air some of the different things that are going on in your race. I understand you've recently opened an office in the great city of Salina, Kansas. Tell me about why you decided to do that. And
a couple of reasons. Basically, though, this is a federal race, and if I'm gonna be, I guess, competitive, I've got to do the things that competitors do. Salina is centrally located. It's a highly populated area. Part of it, too, is that WIBW, about a month ago, they had the opportunity to do a debate here at the State Fair. And that was scheduled for yesterday.
That was scheduled for yesterday.
You look on their website, and it's still scheduled as a debate. It's live from WIBW, or WIBW
live from the fair, yeah.
Well, they made the command decision not to hold a debate because they interpreted that I wasn't a viable candidate because they've got 3 criteria. You have to have $50,000 in contributions, which isn't that
that I think's a little strange with the.
Well, they do it at the federal level too with the presidential debates. You've got to be polling at 15%.
15%, yes.
But WIBW had a philosophy that if you don't have money, you can't win, and so they're basically saying, he who doesn't have the gold isn't going to be on the debate stage.
Yeah.
But I did actually. I had above 50,000, not a lot, but I realized I have to have fundraising, so I met that. They also said you have to be polling above 5%. Well, I've seen the polling, and I'm polling well above 5%. And finally, they said you have to have an office that's not in your own house. And I thought, well, isn't that interesting? What's wrong with the office being in my house? I have a separate office in my house, and I'm running on a conservative, at least a fiscally conservative platform. I'm not wasting money on space I don't need. But that was the requirement, and so, things being what they are, I realized, well, I'm going to go get an office. So I got a great space in Salina. I've got some paid office staff now, a lot of really good office volunteers, and that's the new base of operations.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
So, what besides all that? What else do you have going on? I know there's a debate coming up we were talking about a little bit earlier before we got on the air.
There's 4 debates. One in Abilene, which I think it might even be next week. There's one in Hutch, here in Hutch in October.
Yeah.
There's on the same day we're going to try and jet down to Junction City and do another forum.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, flying down the interstate trying to get to another forum to answer the same questions. And these aren't even debates. Let me clarify too. I think Hutch might be the only actual debate where there's back and forth.
The rest of them are just...
The rest of them are forums. They're meet and greets. So how do you do? And there's also going to be one in Garden City, I think maybe in the next week or two. And I don't know the format, but hopefully it's where we actually answer, political questions or policy questions, and then we challenge each other on the responses. Because if you, short of that, you're just spouting off nonsense that nobody challenges. So that's what I'm hoping for. At least there's those 4 events, and then there's about 6 more that are in the works, and I'm hoping that they all become real, voter activity, voter interaction events.
So did you go to the deal yesterday that WIBW was doing at the fair? Or?
Oh, gladly, yeah. I sat in the front row, and I sat there and listened to these ag policy questions that I would have been very comfortable responding to, and challenging the people that were on the stage. They were qualified people. You had the secretary,
I know Pat Roberts was up there.
Pat Roberts is the chairman for the Senate Ag Committee.
Yeah.
They also had Mike Conaway, and he is the House chair. And then we also had an expert from K-State.
Yeah.
And there were times where I thought that, I want to show respect for those guys because if I win this, I want to be able to work with those guys. But there were times where they answered the questions in that political way. That's, I don't want to say dishonest or outright lying, but there were times where they said things that were just less than truthful. And
yes.
I wish that I had the opportunity to be up there and say, well, that's not entirely true.
Well, the one thing I like about you, Alan, is that you have hit the ground running. You have been all over the place. The fact that you had your campaign when you were trying to get the signatures to get on the ballot, you were all over the place doing that. Yeah. You're actually running for an office, which is totally different than what some of these politicians are doing, where they're just hanging out.
Well, something that's different.
There's people that are going to run for our city commission here in a couple years that they just think just because they're on the ballot, they're going to get in there.
Well, oftentimes that's what happens. Oftentimes either a candidate goes unchallenged and they win by default, or they go as the party's nominee, and then because the party's going to win, they don't campaign. They don't try and address concerns. They just say, well, I've got this letter behind my name. I know that I'm in a safe district or a safe municipality, and they'll win.
Yeah.
And that's become our democracy today. And the biggest threat, I say this a lot, the biggest threat to our form of democracy, which is a republic, is apathy. If the voters don't participate, if they don't put their voice out there, then what you get is only the extremists that are going to vote. And those extremists, you can more easily manipulate what they're going to vote for. And then they vote on these extreme ideas or these extreme policies that no one's ever going to enact. It will never become law, at least I hope not. Yeah. But then they win, and then those are the people representing our best interests.
It's absolutely amazing. Jay, do you do politics at all, or are you?
I'm a little bit blind to politics. Not into that at all. Not into
That's
that
why I was trying to see if.
Well, let me throw this in there because I did. I went out and got the 5,000 to get on the ballot. 5,000 signatures. That's the demand. I got 9,000 signatures, and I got them from 58 separate counties. There's 63 in the district. I got signatures from 58 counties. And the biggest hurdle, it wasn't just the time spent and the blood, sweat, and tears out there begging people to just give me access to the ballot in November.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. You just wanted the access.
That's all it was, ballot access. They weren't voting for me, and I told them, you don't have to. It's just you're letting other voters choose in November. Otherwise, they won't have a choice.
Right.
So the biggest hurdle I ran into was when I would say anything about politics, most of the people would say, oh, yeah, I don't like politics. I don't get involved at all. And I would say, well, but they affect you. And they say, no, they really don't. I have no interest in that. But they do. They do, because when they raise taxes locally, when they raise taxes federally, or when they send people off to war, you're paying for that. When they criminalize certain behavior and put people in jail for that. I got called to task on this a couple weeks ago on your show. When you're paying, billions of dollars for a criminal justice system that is flawed, so deeply flawed, And we, the middle class, the working class, the earning class, pay that. Absolutely, it does affect you. And if you don't participate, your apathy leads to your own demise.
Wow. Didn't know it was that in depth.
Now, with you doing all of this, I noticed that that newspapers are starting to jump on your whole thing, your whole campaign, everything you're doing, and saying, hey, he's an independent running. There's not a lot of options. You can either vote for Roger Marshall or vote for you, and this is probably a better idea to vote for you. What do you think of all the press coverage you've been getting?
Well, the press's job is to dig in and get information, and I'm
Yeah.
not one of those people that blame the liberal media for everything. Now,
Yeah.
nationally, the liberal media or the conservative media, they're both biased because they're just trying to sell soft drinks and sneakers. They really don't care about what the message is so long as it sells those soft drinks and sneakers.
Yeah.
But local media is people that you know, people that you can go have
Yep.
a cup of coffee with.
Yep.
And those people are salt of the earth journalists, and those are amazing human beings, and I know
Yep.
hundreds of them across the district. So when they ask questions, they're shocked by the fact that I answer them. I've gone on Great Bend Radio dozens of times, and every time they're just, wow, Alan, you answer the questions. And I said, well, you
Alan, you answered a question. Isn't that shocking?
So they
Because
really,
it is, because these guys don't.
But I didn't know that because I'm not political. I mean, I've recently
Yeah.
become political. I'm a teacher, I'm a school administrator. I got involved in this, and so someone asked me a question, I give them an answer, and when they look shocked that I answer them, I think, well, what does the other guy do? And they say, well, nothing. They just say some nonsense, and they pivot, and they try to answer the question that they want asked, but not the one that I did ask.
They just pivot.
That's a political term, pivot.
Oh, my God.
You ask about something, they pivot, they answer whatever they want to answer, and they never give you what you asked. They never give you what the voter needs to hear to make an informed decision. They give you what they think will win them your vote, and it's nonsense.
See, that's the thing. I'm absolutely amazed this year on not just the local level, but the national level for politics, is the fact that it's just getting to the point where a lot of these folks, like you were saying, they answer whatever they want to answer. And it's a thing of, in the last couple years, you wouldn't have had people say that, but now it's just like the masks are off. They're just like, yeah, I know, I'm not paid for. But I don't care. What are you going to do about it? It's like, we have a choice.
But you don't. I mean,
well,
in
that
the
too.
presidential race, you really don't. I mean, there's actually several third-party choices, but everybody dismisses them because that just it's never happened before. It's not going to happen now. So those people in power know that it's either this bad choice or this bad choice, and they're just kind of playing the game to find out which bad choice is the least bad, and then you, the voters, get this illusion that you picked. Well, you didn't, because no matter what happens on November 9, America's going to wake up with a sore headache, a sore hangover, because we're going to have a new president that nobody likes. And even if you like one, most people don't. I don't care who your choice is.
Yeah. Now, Jay, listening to all this, are you motivated to vote?
Unfortunately, I'm not, because I fall in that same category, of just, if I don't vote, then somebody else is going to do it for me, and no matter what I choose, even if I did go vote, it may get overridden by somebody else's vote.
But your absence at the ballot, your not voting, is doubling the value of the extreme voter.
Yes.
You're doubling that vote, because you could cancel out a bad vote if you voted smart. So, even if you're not going to, I can't tell you who to vote for, and I can't tell you which candidate's best. But
I wouldn't even know who to vote for, because I don't listen to any of the.
See, this is another thing. How do you reach
Yeah.
those kind of voters, not just in your race, but in all the races, of people who they don't pay attention to radio, TV. She's listening to hip hop radio.
Yay!
That's what she's listening to. How do you reach out to some of these voters that could hear your message or want to hear your message, but they're doing other things? How does Or is that your job to do that? That's the
that's
thing.
my job. I mean, that's the thing about my background. I'm an educator, so my job's to educate. And I'm actually sitting here now. I'm here. I'm on the show, and I'm looking you dead in the eye and saying, has it not affected you? Have bad governmental decisions not affected you personally? I mean, have you not felt, at least on some level, tyranny because the government made a really bad choice that affects you? Criminalizing behavior that you don't think should be criminalized, or restricting access to something that you think you should have access to.
Yeah, it has.
Okay, so that's it right there. So your job as a voter in a democracy is to say, listen, my voice counts for something too. I mean, you feel insignificant, but damn it, there's a lot of people that feel that same insignificance. And
Yep.
banded together, you are more powerful than they ever will be. So you have to vote just because of that.
That is true. I mean, I never really thought about it like that. You bring it in perspective that way. It does make sense.
Well, it does. I mean, we've had the vote. 240 years we've had this form of a democracy, this constitutional republic where you vote for somebody and they represent your best interests. And if you don't feel that the people that are getting elected are representing your best interests, it is your job, it is your imperative to choose someone who will.
All right, you sold me. I'm gonna register.
All right, that's one.
That's one. You've reached one. And
I think it's ironic that
yes, go.
I think it's ironic that rap music was originally from politics. I mean, that's how they got the message out, was to make it fun, to talk about what was going on. And now we've got rap radio where you're not listening to the politics.
Right. That is very true. That's very true. They're not listening to politics.
Yeah. It just...
What happened? Because you're right. I mean, when rap started, back in the late 70s, early 80s, it was political. You've got NWA, and that was extremely political.
Yes.
And so what happened? Why does rap not have? And there are definitely artists that have political messages, but
too many of them get caught up in the image, of this gangster image.
Now, there's a difference between rap and crap rap.
Right, you're right.
That's
she
two
is
different
right.
genres.
She is right, but there is a lot.
I like rap.
Yeah.
I don't like crap rap.
I agree with you, but there are those that are caught up in the gangster part of it.
Yeah.
And too many of them glamorize that whole image, and that's where it's gone wrong.
Is it also fair to say that money is influencing?
Well,
that all ties in with the
Corporate?
gangster image.
That too, because a lot of, I every time I do this, I always sound like a racist. But we were in Kansas City. I don't know, beginning of the summer. My mother had won some jazz tickets from a station in Wichita, and they were doing this big thing up in Kansas City, and we showed up for this, and pretty much the only white people in the building were me and my mother. That's what it was. But everybody there was dressed to the nines, and they were all grown folks that were hanging out, and they were enjoying jazz, and at the end of the night, they went and they got in their vehicles and they left. And then the next night, we had to go to some rap show somewhere, and we showed up. All the artists were late. All the people that were there were dressed with the saggy jeans and all the shenanigans. And then when it was all over with, everybody hung out in the parking lot, and there was a couple fights. And I'm like, what's the disconnect here? Because it's like, the adults, who I seen last night, were all, having a good time. And today, the people that are under the age of 30 are all, throwing up gang signs and got the saggy pants and going nuts. And I'm like, what's the deal here? And the thing was that the crowd the night before were listening to the local jazz station in Kansas City that was basically an NPR station. And I'm like, then the night after they were listening to Power 93 in Wichita. And I'm like, so I don't know. Is it an age gap? Am I at the middle of the road where I'm like, I just can't stand I don't mind the rappers, I just don't like the crowd? Or Is it the fact that I see that the grown folks, realistically, are going out and having a good time, and nobody's getting shot at the end of the night? I don't know.
I prefer the lack of getting shot.
Yes,
but,
I would prefer that too.
But I'm getting up there. I mean, I'm 44 now, and I find myself not liking certain styles of music, or saying that oh, it's all corporate garbage music. Where's the good music that I grew up listening to? But I don't want to disparage an entire generation of people.
That too.
But what I will say is that there are generations, like we've got the millennials, and we've got the newer generation, and they grew up in a political environment where there was just fear and hate that was just peddled out all the time.
Yes.
My daughters are growing up in an environment where we've been at war continuously. We've never not been at war.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that this generation that's coming up right now, anything between 15 and 30, they've grown up in a time that was so tumultuous, and they know in their hearts that something is wrong. Something in our society is wrong. Now, they can't exactly label it, or they can't get together and collectively say, we agree that it's this, but they know it's something. There's something wrong, and they're rebelling against it. And I give them credit for at least trying. Now my next thing is get organized and fix it. Because my generation, or the generation before me actually, broke it. I'm this older guy now. I'm in my 40s, but I'm doing everything in my power to fix it. I'm trying to label it, address it, and fix it.
Yeah.
To anybody listening to the younger generation, fix it.
Yeah, keep talking, brother. We're being invaded. Just keep talking, brother. We're
Just take that energy, take that sentiment, take that whatever the fights that you're talking about. Take that energy and channel that into something productive.
Well, and see, that's the thing. Is I wish we could do that. We're gonna take a quick break. We are kind of up against the clock here. It is 22 minutes after the hour. Alan LaPolice is with us. Jay Marie is substituting for Israel because he booked a guest and bolted. And that guest is J.B. Wells. She's with us today. And we have some hip-hop artists that are coming into the building. Oh, and we may... Since he is here, we may actually continue this discussion that we were just talking about. How do you reach those kind of people?
Definitely think
it'll be interesting. We're going to take a quick break. If you're watching us on Ustream, we'll be back here in a few moments.